Scientific names just rolling out my mouth. I love cichlids from the north and pleckles from the south. There's a whole lot of folks up in the fish fam. There's Corey and Bob and Jadren. I'm a fish nerd, a fish nerd, fish nerd, a fish nerd. Petco and Walmart, stop killing my fish. I'm tired of rescuing betas that are dying in a dish. Every employee, they just seem to be lost, selling Oscars with guppies. But at what cost? I'm a fish nerd, a fish nerd, fish nerd, a fish nerd. It's Saturday again, heading to the fish store. I'm addicted to fish, I need more and more. I keep buying more fish, and I don't have the room. I'll put them in the bathtub, let the buy-in resume. I'm a fish nerd, a fish nerd, fish nerd, a fish nerd. Doing water changes all day and night. I can't get the pH where it seems just right. I do 10, 20, or 30%. So many fish, they need to pay me rent. Fish nerd, a fish nerd, fish nerd, a fish nerd. Sucking up the water crap going up my nose. I can't seem to stop making fish room videos. YouTube, I love you, but you ain't paying squat. Gotta keep a real job, don't like it a lot. I'm a fish nerd, a fish nerd, fish nerd, a fish nerd, fish nerd, a fish nerd, fish nerd, a fish nerd. I got 400 tanks in every room of my house. There's not a prayer in the world of me finding a spouse. I'm spilling water on the floor and all over the wall. No matter if it's carpet, I'm ruining it all. I'm a fish nerd, a fish nerd, a fish nerd, a fish nerd. Scientific names just rolling out my mouth. I love cichlids from the north and pleckles from the south. There's a whole lot of folks up in the fish fam. There's Corey and Bob and Jadren. I'm a fish nerd, a fish nerd, fish nerd, a fish nerd. Petco and Walmart, stop killing my fish. I'm tired of rescuing betas that are dying in a dish. Every employee, they just seem to be lost, selling Oscars with guppies. But at what cost? I'm a fish nerd, a fish nerd, fish nerd, a fish nerd. It's Saturday again, heading to the fish store. I'm addicted to fish, I need more and more. I keep buying more fish, and I don't have the room. I'll put them in the bathtub, let the buy-in resume. I'm a fish nerd, a fish nerd, fish nerd, a fish nerd. Doing water changes all day and night. I can't get the pH where it seems just right. I do 10, 20, or 30%. So many fish, they need to pay me rent. Fish nerd, a fish nerd, fish nerd, a fish nerd. Sucking up the water crap going up my nose. I can't seem to stop making fish room videos. YouTube, I love you, but you ain't paying squat.
Hey, what is going on, guys? This is Jason with Jadren Aquatics. Thanks for hanging out with me today in the live stream. So we'll let a few people jump in here. Oh, Lord, looks like we already got a bunch of people in here. So I know you're probably wondering as you're looking, why is he by himself? Well, you guys have seen, or I actually just saw, Papa Shrimp is in the chat. He had some tooth issues, and if there's one thing I understand that you need to get taken care of is tooth issues. Oh my gosh. Oh, I know women have to go through childbirth, but I think tooth pain is probably somewhere along the same lines as a tooth pain in childbirth. So he is not here with me, but he is here in spirit, and he's also here in the chat. So I get the joy of doing this by myself today. And the funny thing is like I'm nervous, and I don't even know why. Why in the world I'm nervous? I don't know what I'm nervous about whatsoever. So, but before we get going, I spent a lot of time getting things fixed. The sound we had every week. There's some new problem to get past. I switched out mics. The other mic we had wasn't as loud as it should be, so this one seems to be fine now. I don't see anybody complaining about anything. Got the camera set up correctly, but I did try something new. So we are going to switch over to something new that I tried out, and we'll keep it there if everything goes good. Hey, Chaz, that's my nephew that's in there, Chaz Wilson. Everyone tell him hi. I'm going to switch over to this new one that I tried, and please tell me if anything is going wrong, like the sound or something's wrong. So let's switch on over to that thing, and let's see how it goes. So this one looks a lot better. I know when I'm watching live streams, and it's really nice on the ones where they actually put the chat out to the side so you can read it. So I've got that changed over to that now, so you can actually see the chat. I assume it's coming through for you guys. And then also it's got things on here. It'll show you, like who joined as memberships. If you guys don't know what memberships are, if you click on the join button above the subscribe button, every couple of months I send you out 2 of these prints, or you can get these stickers that are here, or there's also some other stuff that I've made. I run my own printing company, so I'm able to do a lot of stuff like this. Priscilla MK Arts, if you know who she is, she's the one that actually does all of these things, and she's kind enough to allow me to give them out. So if you guys are interested in that, if you join, from what I understand, down there under recent sponsors, your name should actually pop up there. Also, it shows recent subscribers. And then if you do a super chat's supposed to show up there. It's still showing the ones that were from the previous week. It takes, I don't know, whatever the history is from the previous time. So I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work right. And it's also something supposed to pop up somewhere on the screen if somebody does something too. So I don't see anybody complaining, so I guess everything seems to be going good. Looks like we've got a lot of people in here. Excited to have all you guys here. We're not going to get into it any today, but Papa Shrimp and I had a long discussion about the fish store and what we're doing with it and this, that, and the other. And so we're making some pretty big changes on that. So I'll talk to you guys about that in another video. But on that note, I told you guys before that we were going to be going to Austin this weekend. We've decided to cancel that. We'd already paid for the table, so I told them just to give it away to someone else that wanted a table. So if you were going there by chance to see us, we will not be in Austin this weekend. And I'm kind of excited in a sense. It's a 3-hour trip to get to Austin. And whenever I do these trips, I like to incorporate other fish rooms and fish store tours while I'm doing it. And because of the time constraints and the fact that we're bringing all these fish down there, and when you bring them down there, you never sell everything. So you got fish that have to come back. So that's a long time to have to deal with fish. So if we go in and try to film someplace, because it's still like 98 degrees here or something. So it's still plenty hot. So we can't just leave the fish in the car while we go in and film a fish store. So all we were going to be able to do was do the show and then come straight back. So again, we won't be there. You guys, I saw a couple of questions again. Papa Shrimp is in the he's in the chat, but he's not here with us today. He had some tooth issues, had to go to the dentist to get that taken care of, because there's nothing worse than some horrible tooth pain. So I decided we would kind of try to start a series on building a fish room and kind of everything that goes along with that. And so there's a lot that goes into building a fish room and making a lot of decisions. And kind of one of the first decisions you got to make is, first of all, where are you going to do it at? Are you going to do it in a bedroom in the house? Are you going to do it in the garage? Because here in Texas, we don't have a lot of choices as far as basements, because almost no house here is built with the basement. You guys up north are lucky in that sense that you get all this free extra square footage at the bottom of your house. So here we've got to make that decision on where we're going to do it at. Well, I'm happily married for 30 something plus years, and part of that reason is I know, for the most part, I know the right decisions to make when it comes to fish keeping. And the first one is building it inside of a room in the house was going to be a instant divorce because I don't know about you guys, but I don't have the ability to do a water change or fill a water bucket up or fill a container up or fill a trash can up without absolutely overflowing it everywhere. It constantly happens to me. So I know that I have to be in a space that I'm not going to have any problems when there's water overflow. And that's actually been a fairly hard lesson that I've had to deal with at the print shop. So if you guys don't know, I saw a few guys that are new here. So I decided to build the fish store, it's really basically a fish room at my print shop. So I blocked off about, I think it's 450 square foot back in the back corner of the building, and basically built it very similar to the way my fish room works right now, with sponge filters. And then I also have the same 275-gallon container that does automatic water changes through a drip system. And one of the hard lessons that I've had to deal with there is water spillage, because up at the shop, it's a building that we've been in since 1984. So we've been there for a long time, and the building is settled a lot. So even when you're walking through the building and you look down at the concrete, because it's all just normal concrete floors, there's no carpet or anything, you can just see all these cracks just running all over the place. So whenever I built that room and I thought about when water spills, because again, I'm going to spill water. When water spills, where is it going to go? My hope would be that it would just run out the side, kind of go under the sheetrock and then run out the side of the building, because we have a metal building, and that metal building is... it's just framed real simple, where you've got the aluminum on the outside, and then you've got like some metal poles that screws into, and then you have some sheetrock there. So it's pretty much kind of just an open space. So if you cut into the very bottom where the drywall is, you can almost see outside. You can see the light coming from outside. So I'm hoping that water would just run out, one of those holes somewhere. Well, that's not what happens. Whenever you spill water anywhere in the fish room, including where the 275-gallon container is, the water, first of all, it takes off and it runs down the entire length of the side of the building. And then it gets to that side of the building, so it hits in the corner, and it doesn't just run off there. It's then slanted the other way. So then the water takes off and runs down the wall, through the fish room, and then it runs into the print shop. And along that wall, I have multiple 220-volt copiers. I have 3 of them that are against that wall. And so anytime I have a spill, it just rushes. It's not like this light water going down. It is a rush rushes down that corner, and then I put stuff to try to block it from getting out there, but it always gets by. So it flows past that, and the next thing you know, it's just a nightmare to get this all cleaned up. So I'm in the process of actually trying to fix that because Papa Shrimp has seen me before in stress mode whenever that's happening, because I've taken all the plugs and stuff and I've moved them up out of the way. So if water comes back there, it can't really do any damage, but it still makes me nervous as can be. So I've gone to the corner of the fish room that it finally runs into, and I sprayed that insulation foam all around there to basically make a dam. And then I've cut a hole in the sheetrock, so in hoping that it will puddle up in that corner and then run out that hole. So that's hopefully what it's going to do. I haven't had a spill since then, but again, it's absolutely inevitable. And so that's obviously something you got to take in consideration of whenever you're building it. Is what room you're going to do it in, and you're going to spill. It's absolutely inevitable. I don't care what you think, whether it's going to or not going to. That thing is going to overflow at some time. So once you make that decision where you're going to build that thing at, what about an absorbent pig? What do you mean an absorbent pig? Pig must stand for something that I don't know. So battery is going to dead. Be right back. Run and plug in. All right. So make a decision where you're going to build it at. So now you've made a decision on what room that you're going to build it in, whether it's your basement, your garage, or it's a room. Now you got to decide how in the world are you going to control the temperatures that are in that room. My thought is, and what a lot of people do, is if you have at least 10 tanks or more, it's so much easier just to heat and cool the room than it is to try to run heaters in every one of your tanks. Now, granted, you may run a few heaters because you may be keeping some rams or some angelfish that you need to keep up to at a higher temperature, so you're going to run heaters in there. But you don't want to run heaters in every single one of your tanks, because a typical heater is about 100 watts. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but you've got to manage your electricity. When I say manage it, you have to keep a running total of all the wattage that you have going through a single plug to make sure you're not going to go over that 15 or 20 amperage that you have running in that. So a typical 15 amp, you can only have 1500 or 1800 watts. I'm trying to do this from memory because I'm not a electrician. I think it's 1800 watts. So that means you can only have 1800 watt heaters, and then you're completely out. You've already used up one entire circuit breaker. So you got to keep that in mind. So you got to make up that decision on what are you going to do. Are you going to heat the room or not? So my suggestion is you want to heat the room. It's a whole lot easier to heat and to cool that room. But you got to keep in mind that when you're doing that, take that into consideration whenever you're building your room. Now, I know the thought goes through where you're just like, man, I just want to get this thing up and get some tanks out there. Don't do that. Please pre-plan and have things prepared beforehand so that you don't make so many mistakes that I've made. You want to plan beforehand on what you're going to do. So, let's see, we got some. I spill at home and at work, always overflowing some sumper tank. It's inevitable, and I know as you get older, it just becomes more of a problem. You become more forgetful. Or I know how it is with me. I'll be sitting there just simply filling up the trash can. So I keep a 40-gallon trash can out in the fish room, and that's there for me to do, like if I'm doing like a manual water change, or I just need to top off a tank because it's a different tank that I don't do automatic water changes. So I keep water there all the time. And so that thing doesn't take very long to fill up. Well, when you're sitting there filling it up and you're sitting there watching it, that seems like it takes forever. So you think to yourself, you know what? I'm just gonna go over here to this other aquarium, and I'm gonna take a razor blade and I'm gonna clean some of the funk off it, and I'm gonna make it look nice. And then inevitably, every single time when you get over there, you totally forget about the water running, and the next thing you hear is water splashing all over to the place. Heart attack ensues as you fly over there, and you're such in a panic mode you can't even remember how to turn the water off correctly to keep that water from absolutely flowing everywhere. So you're going to spill. I don't care what you think you're going to spill. And if you were building a room from scratch, the best thing would be to take your floors and even put them on a slanted thing with a drain in the middle, so that you could purposely just pour water on the floor to get rid of it, so that it would go down the drain. That way, anytime something spills, it was just going to go down the drain. That would be the best way to do it. The only thing I'm not sure about that is when you create that little bit of a slant, you're going to cause yourself to have to shim up your stands, because your stands aren't going to necessarily sand flat. I know that because of my fish room being out in the garage. For those of you guys that don't know it, your garage is built on a natural slant. That way, if you do spill anything in your garage, it's just going to run out the bottom of the garage because it's at a slant. So if you put a stand where that slant is, your stand is going to slant. So you have to shim up the side of the stand to try to get it level. And it's pretty important that you get that thing actually level. Eric Wyrock, my 2-year-old twins are still your number 1 fan. Oh, I don't know what they see in me. I'm not even sure what my wife sees in me, but I deeply appreciate that. That means a lot. You guys are absolutely awesome. So, spillage in the tank. Where was I going with that? So you guys remember whenever we're having a live stream that I get to talking and I start chasing rabbits. And Papa Shrimp's job is to keep me in line and to get me back onto topic so that I don't get lost. So we were talking about building the fish room. We were talking about heating the fish room and whether or not, oh yeah, you don't want to use a bunch of heaters in your room. So you want to, okay, so when you're building that room, you've got to take in consideration insulation. Don't just throw some walls up and throw some sheetrock up, because I made that mistake. And a lot of it has to do with where do you live at. Now, we live here in Texas, so winter is not a big concern. Well, winter usually isn't a big concern, except for this year. I'm sure all of you know we had a massive snowstorm here in this last winter, knocked people's electricity out for weeks at a time. Ice everywhere, it wouldn't melt. So for the most part, you usually don't need to plan so much for that kind of weather, because it very seldomly happens. But you want to insulate your room, because it's going to, in the long run, I promise you, it's going to lower your electricity bill. Because again, you're going to have to do something to heat and cool it. You guys that live up north that have to deal with a lot of cold, you're having to run a heater a lot of time. And a heater is typically about a 1500 watt. Well, here in Texas, we run air conditioner for a long time. Our air conditioners are about 12,000 watts. So they're pulling sort of similar electricity. So in the most part, we're probably using about the same electricity throughout the year as some of you guys up north, some of you guys up there like where Dan is, dealing with a ton of snow and ice. He's having to deal with a lot more. So take the time whenever you're building those walls to insulate them. And a problem I know I had because of laziness, I would think to myself, you know what? I'm just going to take insulation and put it on the inside of the wall. I'm going to put sheetrock on this side of the wall, and no one is going to see the other side of the wall. No one cares about the other side of the wall. So why even bother sheetrocking the other side of the wall? Well, you're supposed to. You're supposed to do the other side of it because it creates some type of sealed area, and apparently the insulation only works correctly if it's sealed in. I don't understand all the technical mumbo jumbo to it, but I know that it works if you take that insulation and you take sheetrock on this side and sheetrock on this side with insulation in the middle. So be sure and do that to every single one of your walls. Insulate those things completely, and get that sheetrock up on them. Now, granted, when I originally did my fish room, the first time I built it because I was doing saltwater. I had a 125-gallon saltwater reef tank in my house with a multiple tanks attached off to it with a sump, and I was wanting to. I was growing a lot of corals, and so I didn't have enough room in the house, so I decided I was going to build something out in the garage. That's when I very first started putting up walls in the garage. And I put them up quickly. Some of the walls I didn't really insulate, so I kind of had problems with it. Later on, my son got into drums, and his band would practice, so they would go out there. So then I tried to actually, soundproof it. That didn't work very well at all, because drums are really, really loud, by the way. Really, really loud. Like they would shake the wall from the room that was connected to it. So, all right, you got to get that wall all completely insulated. And so now you've got a room that you can hold the cool in, or you can hold the heat into it. Again, I promise you, throughout the time you run your fish room, you are going to save a lot of money just on your electricity bills. Now, if you're building your fish room inside a room in your house, then you're already dealing with an insulated area. You don't have to go through that. That's probably the fastest way to get a fish room up, is just to put it into one of your rooms in your house. But I would probably suggest, and I saw Bob in here a second ago, because I know Bob has had this problem before whenever he was running his fish room in his house, spilling onto the carpet. You probably just want to just rip the carpet up in that room. just give up right then and rip that carpet up in that room, because you're going to get water in it, and it's going to get funky and moldy and everything else. Anyway, now if you're going to want to build it in a basement, this is one I don't know a lot about. I've talked a little bit about it before, because I know basements are sometimes done differently. Some people have basements that already have walls up that are fully insulated, or because I think most basements are done like with cinder blocks or something like that. But cinder blocks aren't going to provide the insulation that you need. But you're going to go down in your basement. You're going to know how cold it gets down there, or take the temperature gauge and shoot the wall and see how cold it is there compared to how cold it is outside. Chris asked me, were you impacted by the winter freeze? Yes and no. Totally, I only had about maybe 10 fish die completely. And the reason being is because I own a generator. If there's one thing I cannot stress enough, even if you're just keeping one tank, buy a generator. Because a generator can be used for so many different things. You can go down to Harbor Freight, you can buy a generator for about $300, and that generator will power about 4,000 watts worth of stuff, which will give you the ability to keep a refrigerator going. You can keep all the pumps in your room, in your fish room, going. If you got to run a couple of heaters in tanks, you can run a couple of heaters in there. You can keep a bunch of lights going out there. There's so many different things that you can do with a generator, that you absolutely have to have a generator. And so that's what saved me. And we were lucky enough that our power only went off for a little less than 2 days. And so I got the generator going. And, kind of a funny story. The generator I actually had to take up. I only had one generator. I'm in the process of buying another generator, so I have one at the shop and here. So we only had one generator. We're iced over. The generator is up at work. We wake up that morning and the power's off, and I'm about to start crying, because I'm thinking the power's off at work. I can't get to my generator. I'm about to lose all my fish. And I'm thinking, if I lose all my fish, I'm done. I quit. I'm done with YouTube. I'm done with fish. I'm moving on. And so I was pretty depressed. And my wife says, well, do you want me to run you up to the print shop and get your generator? Normally, it's only about a 10-minute drive, so it's not terribly far. Well, luckily, my wife grew up in Alaska. That's where she learned how to drive. And so we get in the car, and for most people, you really don't want to be on the road in Texas because, much like me, we don't know what we're doing on the road, and it's dangerous. In fact, during that snowstorm, I think we had almost 100-car pileup at one time because people couldn't see coming over an overpass or something like that. And so she drives me up there, and I basically just bury my head in a blanket because I'm terrified to watch us going because I can feel us sliding and stuff. So we get up there, get the generator, bring the generator back home, fire the generator up. I'm able to plug in my heater because, again, I've got a 1,500 watt heater. I actually plugged in another heater also to get enough warmth. Luckily, up at work, we never lost power one time. And I think the reason up at work that we didn't lose power is because I think we're on the same grid as the jail, because the jail is only a few miles down the road. So I'm assuming from what I read, that's probably why ours didn't get cut off. But granted, I assume ours would go off because at work, ours goes off, like it blinks on and off like 2 or 3 times a week sometimes. Sometimes it'll go off for about an hour and come back on. So I'm thinking during the winter, man, this thing is going off forever. All right, so we get home, fire up the generator, get everything going. Well, we're freezing our butts off in the house. We've had a fire going for a while. We finally burnt through every stick of firewood we have, and we can't keep the house warm. So we decide to move everything out into the fish room. Well, luckily in my fish room, I left a big gap in between the tanks, probably 15 foot or so wide and probably 25, 30 foot long. So we brought all of our blankets and all of our pillows out into the fish room, and we lived in the floor of the fish room for, again, a little less than 2 days. I actually did a video on it. If you guys want to fly through my videos and you want to, or at least just see the picture of what the fish room looked like while we were living in there. So we're living in the fish room for a couple days, and it was cozy in a sense because it wasn't freezing. It still got down to, I think it got down to like low 60s. Maybe at night it might have gotten into the high 50s because it was getting down to like -2 or something at night. And -2 in Texas is completely and utterly unheard of. So nothing is built here to withstand that. So we were just cold. So luckily we wake up that next morning, the morning after that, I can't remember what it was now, but the power came back on, so we're able to load everything back up and take it back inside. I don't particularly have wanted to do that any longer than that. Another friend of mine, Patrick, he actually built a sunroom onto the back of his house with the full intentions of it being a fish room. And so he has this big fish room that's probably maybe 800 to 1,000 square foot. It's a really big fish room. He's probably got about 2,000 gallons of water total running through there. Well, he happened to be out of town, and he also didn't have a generator. And so he lost power for 4 or 5 days. So I think he lost about 95% of his fish. And so it affected people terribly. In fact, we had a show about a month or 2 after that. So we set up at this show, and I'm thinking, man, there's just not going to be that many people here. There's going to be so many people that lost fish. They're going to be just like, I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to deal with keeping fish anymore because I lost all these fish. But man, was I wrong. That place was packed. There was a line. It was over an hour and something wait. It looked like Aquashella. The line went out the building, went down the side of the building, and almost everyone that came in had the same story. They lost all their fish, but they were there to rebuy and to get their aquariums going again. So that excited me to see people still excited about it. Let's see. We had a question about, how do you get your prints? Let me switch over to this thing real quick so I can see something. How can I get my prints? I like those big prints, Jason. My daughters love some of those. Ruben, have I sent you any of the first ones before? because typically what we do whenever we are, I'll put a link out and you guys can go in there and fill out which one you want. Have you not been able to fill that out yet? If so, if you haven't been able to, send me an email and let me know that you have not got yours yet, because the other day I got all of them mailed out. So send me an email and let me know that you have not received yours yet. Or you can go, no, that's probably you can go into the community tab and you can also post it there, because that's where it'll come whenever I send you guys a message. You'll go to the community tab and then you'll just fill out a Google form that'll allow you to put your address and everything in there, and then you can choose which thing you want to be members. Again, for the members, you get to choose these different prints that we have here. So again, send me an email. Let me, still trying to figure out this new system. Let me put my email address here. Bear with me a minute. I don't have Papa Shrimp here to sit there and talk while I do it. Okay, there you go. You can send me an email and let me know. All right, so did I finish my story about about the freeze? So he lost all his fish. A bunch of people lost all their fish. So people came to the show, spent a ton of money buying new fish to get their tanks back going again. So that was really, really exciting. So again, let me stress that one more time. If you don't have a generator, start saving up your money to get a generator, because when something happens, now you notice I didn't say if, I said when. When something happens and you need a generator, you're going to be so thankful you have it. Now granted, it may be like mine. It may sit there for 3 years in a box, brand new, but you're going to be glad when you have it. Oh, in fact, it actually got its first use. It got its first use from Papa Shrimp. I don't know if you guys remember, but Papa Shrimp had a fire in his house that basically burned down his entire room that he was staying in, where he had a bunch of fish tanks, and smoke inhalation and stuff destroyed the rest of the house. So needless to say, his electricity was completely turned off. So he had to use that generator to get going. So buy a generator. Let's see. Barbara says, I built my fish room with 17 tanks 4 years ago, and I'm currently in the process of deconstruction. It's too much work for my taste. I am going back to 2 or 3 large scape tanks. Yeah, I get that. And part of the things that I did whenever I created my fish room, well, that's not true. Later on down the line, when I realized how big of a pain in the butt it was getting to do water changes, I decided to take down, I had about 50-something tanks at that time, and drill every single one of them and create an automatic drip system so that I wouldn't have to do water changes, because I knew that was going to be a major problem with me. And it's part of the reason I don't have any fish tanks in the house whatsoever. My wife even wanted me to buy a big display tank at one time to put in the front room, but I know how bad I am about water changes. So I knew if I had to run a hose in there and everything that goes along with setting water changes up on those tanks, I knew it wasn't going to happen. I mean, so that's why I went to the route that I did to set up automatic water changes. It makes the difference in the world. Now, granted, it can cause some laziness because one of the things that I have to deal with is not doing gravel vacuuming enough. And so I've had problems with a few tanks because I've just let it build up and let it build up and let it build up, especially when you got tanks that got a whole bunch of plecos in them, because those things are an absolute mess. Because in fact, one of the projects that I'm kind of doing right now is, so Aquashella is coming up in like 31 days or something now. And so as before, some people came and filmed my fish room. So I'm in the process of trying to clean everything up in the fish room right now. So that it'll be filmable. Because when you've got green algae growing on the glass, when you look in there, it's not that big a deal when it's not too, dense. When it's growing in there, your camera, all it wants to do is it wants to focus on that green stuff, and it can't find the fish. So this weekend I spent a ton of time going through. I've got about half of my tanks done now, where I have taken a razor blade to every single one of them and cleaned all the front of the glass. You can take the mag float or whatever those things are, but those things, I don't know, when it gets too hard, those things don't tend to get it off quite as well. So the best way to me is just to get a razor blade in there, and then when you're in there with your hands, you can feel along the glass. And you can feel any spot that needs to have the razor blade go over it. When you look at it, you can't really see it, and maybe that's because I'm blind up close. Well, I'm blind up close when I have contacts on. That's a whole nother story. We don't need to go down that rabbit trail. So you can feel with your hand. You can feel what any of those spots are, and so you can take that razor blade and clean it. So that's what I did this weekend, trying to prepare. If someone decides they want to come to here and film, they're more than welcome to. I don't have any idea what the schedule is going to be with having my own booth. We're going to have a lot more to have to deal with. Koi Fish says, hey, received the peppered cores today. Everything is well. Awesome. I'm glad those guys worked out well and got to you safely. Okay, let's see. So Mary Page, I'm getting ready to hop on over to prime time. Hope to see you guys there. What time is it? 7:37. Oh, we still got about 23 minutes. I lose track of time. Thank you, Mary Page. You are awesome. Really appreciate you for stopping by. Yeah, Blake talked about the MagFloat razor blade attachment. Works pretty well. I haven't got one of those yet, so I haven't had the ability to try one of them. I need to get it because I have a thing that holds my razor blade, so when I put it in there, it's away from my hand. But a lot of times I get lazy and I put the razor blade in my hand, and I keep thinking to myself, there's going to come a point in time that razor blade is going to flip on me. I hate saying this out loud because I'm just going to bring it into fruition now by saying it out loud. That razor blade is going to flip on me one day and cut me and fill the tank with blood. So it would be much easier if I could get one of those mag floats that actually has that attachment to it. The only thing that I don't like about that is you have to take that mag float and almost completely dry it out before you move it over to another tank, because then you're bringing stuff from one tank to the next tank. Now, granted, I'm not going to lie to you. Every time I stick my arm in the tank and I start doing work on it, do I completely dry off to make sure it's not completely wet? No. Have I paid the price for that sometimes for not drying my arm off before I moved it? Yes. When you end up getting ick in this tank, and then you get ick in the tank next to it, you pretty much know that you've cross-contaminated the water, and you get real lackadaisical. Like at one time, I bought like 30 or 40 nets, so I would only use the same net on the same tank. And then as things are going better and you're not really having any problems, it's real easy to just grab the same net that's already wet from a previous tank to grab some fish, because you think, oh, it's not going to be that big of a deal. It's kind of like the quarantining thing. You guys, sometimes you're just like, well, I got this fish from a friend. I don't really need to quarantine this fish. I'll just put it in my tank and, oh, he'll be fine. If there's one thing that Papa Shrimp and I have learned with dealing with fish that come from Florida or from overseas or whatever they are, you guys, you want to quarantine these things. Believe me, you want to quarantine these fish, because I think Corey's mentioned it before that like every fish that comes in, there's something wrong with it. It's carrying some type of parasite, or it's got something negative going on with it. So you want to quarantine so you don't have that problem. Let's see. Got to be careful of scraping too low and picking up sand. Yeah, we were talking with one of the MagFloat reps, because he was right across from us in Aquashella, Orlando, and he was telling us that was one of the complaints people, that if you take that MagFloat and you get all the way down and it grabs a couple of grains of sand, now you're going to end up scratching the glass. And so they were trying to come up with something for that, and then it's had that razor blade attachment on that one also. Peter Ross says, thanks again for having the $50 gift card giveaway last week. I've ordered already. You shipped Monday, and I got them today. All the fish look great. Absolutely awesome. If you guys don't know what Peter's talking about, last week we gave away a $50 gift card. We had multiple people that gave super chats, and they wanted the super chats to go towards doing gift cards. So that's what we did. We ended up using that money to buy or to set up a gift card. And we did a random drawing, and Peter was the lucky winner. And it seemed like he ordered some Corys and something else. I can't remember. But he did say he got them all, and they all look great. So I appreciate you guys playing along with that. That was awesome. Ruben, dinner is ready. I'm out of here starting my keto today. Love you guys. Jason came with the awesome work. Papa Shrimp, hope to see you soon. Have a blessed evening. You too, Ruben. You have a blessed evening. Also, keto. Been there. Done that, ate me some meat. Don't even want to talk about keto. All right, let's see. So back to designing that fish room. So we talked about the idea of heating it, what you're going to do, the insulation. Same with the basements. That I would suggest it's probably better if you just frame the inside of it. If you frame the inside of it and actually insulate it that way too, because the more insulation you use, the easier it is going to be for you to heat it, the easier it is going to be for you to cool it. The only problem that you're going to need to worry about is the amount of condensation or the amount of, what's the word that I'm looking for, that the little gauge inside my fish room measures. Water in the air. Oh, Papa Shrimp, where are you at right now to... Give me the word. Humidity. Humidity, there's the word. I knew someone's probably going to write it here in a second. Humidity. The humidity that builds up in your room can be intense at moments. And so you got to find a way to get rid of that humidity. Some of the air conditioners that I run, I like to run the air conditioners that are the standalone ones. They're the ones that have a pipe that comes off the back that goes out like to a window. I like to take those and put them up kind of high. And then since mine is in my garage, I've actually cut a hole into the ceiling. And so I take all that hot air that comes through that pipe and I vent it up into the ceiling or into the attic, which is already hot as can be. In fact, I was up there the other day and it was so hot. I'm like, I need to get one of those whirly bird things to get some of that get some of that heat that's out of there. And so you got to learn how to deal with that humidity. Well, that air conditioner that I'm talking about that I use, it actually it has a humidity setting on it too, so you can turn just the dehumidifier on it. But when I run mine, it sucks in humidity and it actually has an outlet. And so you can take that humidity and put it down into my sump. And so it's sucking water out of there all the time. Geek says, I got rid of humidity by moving to a place that has none. I had to put a whole house humidifier to prevent nosebleeds in the winter. Yeah, someplace like Arizona where there's hardly any humidity. But when you run a fish room, you're typically going to have some problems with humidity just because of evaporation. That's another reason that you want to keep tops in your tanks, not just to keep the fish in, but you want to keep tops in your tank to try to keep that humidity down. I noticed when I first got the fish room set up at work, I hardly had any tops on any of the tanks. And so the humidity was getting really, really high in there. I don't know if you guys remember me telling you before. So I bought this... it's a thermometer / humidity measurer I got off of Amazon. It is, and it works off your Wi-Fi. And so it reports to a cloud all the time what the temperature is and what the humidity is. And so you can set this alert on it so that if the temperature gets, either too high or too low between the points that you set, same thing with the humidity, it'll send you a alert to your phone to tell you that there's a problem. Because my fear is always that the power goes off at work. And I know you're thinking, well, Jason, if the power goes off at work, then your router's going to go down and you're not going to get an alert anyway. Well, guess what? I have backup batteries on my router for that very reason. So if the power goes out, my router will still run for another hour, hopefully giving me time. So that thing works absolutely fantastic to have that thing alert me. It saved me a couple times, but for the most part, it doesn't hardly go off too much. If we start dealing with humidity issues, we hadn't had that much lately. We'll just open the door. In fact, I'll do that at the house too. Since my fish room goes through the door through the washer and dryer, I'll open up that door and just leave it pinned open, and it'll let a lot of that humidity back into the house. So I very rarely have any humidity issues, but I still keep a thing out there to measure it so I can see, just to make sure that it's not getting too high, because it's not going to take very long before the humidity is so bad that it starts causing black mold and other things on your in your house. All right, so let's see. We've dealt with humidity, how to control that. So the heat. Now let's talk a little bit about heating it and how to best heat it. Originally, when I set mine up, I used one of these oil-filled heaters. It's a 1500 watt heater, and the reason I wanted to use it is because it's one that's really safe. It can't catch fire. Someone would have to go in there and puncture it to death to end up causing any kind of problems. And so I actually take that one and I hang it from my ceiling, and then I have a fan that blows on it to try to keep it nice and circulated. John asked, any idea when the super red calico plecos will be back in stock? Well, we had 20 something in stock. And lucky for us, guess what? It decided to break out in that tank and has almost wiped out all of them, has almost wiped out all the guppies that are in there. We've got some kind of super strain of ick that we've been getting around here lately that I can't get treated, whether I'm just trying to raise the temperature and add salt, or I'm trying to use ick X. This ick is killing fish within like 2 days. And so when I'll get more back in, I've actually got some that I have bred here at home. They're all about an inch or so right now. So probably in the next month or so, they'll probably be about big enough ready to sell. So that'll probably be the oldest, or that'll probably be the quickest that we'll actually get them back on the website. And that'll be something else we'll talk about too, probably in next week's. We're gonna be changing a lot of what we carry as far as fish go, but again, we'll talk about that a little bit more. We're gonna try to get a little bit more focused on captive bred fish, or fish that I'm actually breeding in the fish room, or someone local is breeding fish. Okay, so the oil-filled heater, that's the one that I've used quite a bit of time. The only problem is it just simply radiates heat off of it. So it doesn't radiate the heat too terribly far. And so I was talking about this in a video one time, and someone wrote me and suggested to me that I try out this infrared heater. So this infrared heater just has these coils that heat up, and then it has a light motor in it that blows the air out, and it's supposedly super safe also. And so I was having trouble with the oil-filled heater up at work keeping it warm enough. So I decided to buy that infrared heater and got that thing installed in there, and that thing works fantastic. I mean, it works really well. So if you were going to get a heater, I would suggest getting that one. But again, most of these air conditioners or heaters that I'm talking about, they're just the camera is just enough at an angle to make me think that we're listing on a boat. Oh, is it? Oh yeah, because it's kind of. Yeah, when I'm looking at it, it looked like it's a little bit of an angle. I think if I get up there and start to jack with it, I'm going to mess it up, or it's going to cause more problems. So next time, I'll try to make sure that the bar up here is level, like this, so that it actually looks straight. I'm just glad, at least this time, that we don't seem to have had any problems with the audio or with the video. Thank goodness. That's all right. You know me. I'm Rico. I'm always looking for squirrels to chase. That way, I can chase a squirrel, and I can figure, and then I can't figure out how to get back to what I was talking about before. So, of course, I don't have Papa Shrimp here to take over to let me gain my thoughts back again. All right. So, talking about the heater, that infrared heater. I can't remember what the brand name of that thing is, but again, it does a fantastic job. But again, the air conditioner and that heater is designed for probably about a 400 square foot room, and that's it. So you need to take that into consideration whenever you're building a room, because you may think, oh man, I got 1,000 square foot. I'm going to build a 1,000 square foot fish room so I can have 1,000,000 tanks. Well, you got to be able to heat it and cool it. So you got to take that in consideration, because a heater or an air conditioner is again going to suck up an entire a circuit breaker, because again, you only can put about 800 watts on a 15 amp breaker, and a heater is 1,500 watts. So again, there's all the stuff you have to keep in balance all the time to make sure that you're not going to be blowing any circuits. The best thing to do is, if you actually started a fish room, is to have another box put in that's just for that fish room. That way you can put in as many plugs on as many outlets as you can, because I can promise you, you're going to end up needing them. It's absolutely inevitable, especially when you're dealing with lights. Get LED lights, because they use a lot less electricity. So instead of, like, a normal one being like 100 watts, you can run like a strip that's like 18 watts. So you can put a whole bunch of those onto one circuit breaker, but every single one of them has got to be plugged in. So when I have almost 100 tanks in the fish room right now, and some of them have one strip that powers light for three or four tanks. So it's not like I have 100 lights, but I probably have 50 or 60 lights that are out there. So that's a lot of plugins that you have to deal with. So the electricity thing is a whole nother thing to talk about. I'd like to go over that sometime too, where we can actually take it and we can break it down, and we can see what it costs to actually run a fish room. What does it actually cost to do all the water changes you're doing? I know one of my wife's complaints is, look how much higher the water bill is this time. I can promise you it's not because of me, because I know almost all the water I use goes in to fill up a 275 gallon tote. That 275 gallon tote I only fill up about 3 times a week. And so that's about, let's see, 800 gallons. So I'm using less than 4,000 gallons a month. And so I don't know what your guys' water costs, but that's like $5 worth of water here. So I can promise you it's not my fish room that's using up water. So water for most people, now granted, I've had people talk about how expensive their water is not a major expense when it comes to a fish room. It's the other things like electricity and stuff that are really more of something to actually have to worry about. I'll tell you guys again, for those of you guys who are wondering where Papa Shrimp is, he had some tooth issues. He's in the chat. So he had to go to the dentist to get that fixed. And he actually lives over an hour from me. And it's not the fact that it's just an hour. It's the fact of where he has to drive through. So you envision the Metroplex with me here. So here we've got Dallas over here, we've got Fort Worth over here, and then we've got all these little cities that are all around it. So this is the metropolitan hub of where everybody is. And over here in Dallas is where the insanity driving is. And I'm kind of down here, kind of a little bit lower, down kind of south of Fort Worth. And he lives way over here on the other side of Dallas. So guess what, boys and girls? Papa Shrimp has to drive through Dallas to get to me, or he can kind of go around and it's going to take longer. So he has a very, very horrible drive to get here. So if he was going to show up for the live stream today, he would have had to gone through that 5 o'clock traffic, which is just complete insanity. So that's why Papa Shrimp did not actually make it in today, but he'll be back with us on next Wednesday when we talk some more about this stuff. Richard says, in UK, you buy old house, they can't charge you extra for water. Well, that's interesting. I assumed it would be just a price per gallon no matter what. So are there different levels of water charges where you're at? That's an interesting concept. I'm always curious what goes on in other countries because we have, a misconception that, we're just used to what goes on here. So when I talk about building a fish room, I don't realize all the stuff that you guys have to go through over there, or how expensive everything is. Richard Reynolds, hey, hello, sorry I'm late. That's quite all right. We've only got 5 minutes left. I can't believe we only have 5 minutes left. I thought to myself, I got to speak for an hour without Papa Shrimp here. And then I thought, well, Jason, once you get to yapping, normally I'm not a yapper. I know you're thinking, yes, you are, Jason. You're just going 90 miles an hour. I'm really not. I'm not. And in fact, when I see people in the store that I know, I sometimes try to avoid them because I don't want to sit there and really make small talk. So I'm not like the small talk guy, which is interesting because my wife is. My wife, she everyone loves her, and she'll talk to anyone, and she'll talk for long periods of time. There's times when we've been in the store, we went there just to get some Cheerios, and an hour and 45 minutes later, we're finally making our way to the car because we ran into someone that we know. So, let's see. No, by law, with an older house, that's all we get from that one. I guess he's writing some more. Hey, Jason. Hey, finally done for the day. Ready for the YouTube shenanigerian. That's a very, very difficult word there, Zen Ginger. You're in just in time to... it's almost time to head over. I think Dan's Fish is next. I think Jason from Primetime Aquatics is also next, or he may have started a little bit earlier. So we got a little bit into it today. I just kind of wanted to cover some of the basis of the idea of starting a fish room. We'll probably go into this again because there's so many other things that go along with it. I'm really surprised that I was able to talk this much about and only get on just a few of the subject. But that's because Jason likes to chase squirrels. But I'm thankful I was actually able to stay on topic the whole time instead of going absolutely crazy with story after story after story. Oh, here we go again. In UK, with an older house, you can use as much water as you like, but it is very wet here. Oh, okay, I see. It's where Papa Shrimp is. He's out in the country, so he's got well water, so he's got access to all the water that he wants for free. And plus, it seems like well water for most people, a lot of certain types of fish do really, really well in there. I guess because it's more natural. Because I don't know about you, if you guys have ever, if you're curious about the water that comes into your house, go to your city's webpage and find the water department, and then find where it tells you the breakdown of the water, so you can see everything that's in your water, and you will be absolutely stunned at what's in your water. Like, there's a percentage of arsenic that's actually in our water. So there's all sorts of things that's added into the water. And I know a lot of those things are probably naturally occurring, but if you are in well water and you've got water that's coming up from the ground, that just seems like a much better situation than actually using the water from your house. Because Safe gets the chloramines out of it, but it doesn't get the arsenic at it. All right. On that note, thank you guys so much for coming by. Love each and every one of you guys. Are absolutely awesome. Be sure and be here next week. Same bat time, same bat place, 7 o'clock Central Time. And I know I just dated myself. So thank you guys. And